Hello and welcome to Drawing Your First Still Life. My name is Eric, and today we're going to be talking about drawing a still life that we set up in a prior video. To rehash, we want objects that are unique and different types of objects that can accent each other. In my still life, I have two different types of bottles with different textures. I have two different types of fruit, and then I have a bottle opener as well. So a good sort of mix of organic and synthetic objects. I've also tried to set it up in a fairly well-lit area. I have my sketchbook, I have my set of pencils here, and I have an eraser. I'm ready to go. I am going to be starting with a 3B today, a little bit darker than what I'd usually start with. I'd probably start with an HB or a B. Do you remember HB, sort of your center, that's your 0? The higher the H, the lighter that pencil is going to be. Then the higher the B, the darker that pencil will be. For the demo, I'm going to be using a little bit of a darker pencil just to make it easier for you to see some of my sketching. Okay, so I've set up my still life and I'm ready to start sketching. Let's get going. So as I set up here, I'm going to try and get this in frame so we can see it as well as possible. I'm going to be starting with some of the most basic shapes first. What a lot of people will do is they will come in and they will try and put too much detail too early, or they'll try and do a line drawing of an object and try and capture its exact essence right away. That's a mistake. Putting too much time into an object too early sort of makes it what I call a defining factor. When you are trying to find proportions of different objects within one still life together, especially within the early stages, it needs to be fluid and you need to be able to move your objects. Right now I'm trying to observe the negative space between this side, the left side of my water bottle, and the right side of the beer bottle. So I'm going to try and get that accurately placed. And that's sort of the name of the game, comparative observation at this stage. I'm just trying to get basic shapes planned first before I try and put any sort of real detail into this drawing. Too much detail, once again, too early, is sort of a hindrance in the long run. Once again, this is a 3B. I'm really not pushing very hard because I want to be able to work into it without putting too much detail. So this little logo here, sort of block it out. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. So once again, negative space is what I'm trying to observe. Space between things. So the banana is coming from the bottom of my water bottle here, curving across to below my peach down here. So center the banana somewhere in there. And I'll build out the space around it. You may see when you look up still lifes, a lot of fruit in still lives. It's kind of a joke within art history, but you see it a lot. The main reason for that is that a piece of fruit is a fairly simplistic object. It's not as difficult to draw as, say, maybe this object here, this bottle opener I'm trying to get a loose rendering of. So it is a good sort of basic object if you're still struggling with subject matter or what you're going to do for your still life. Fruit's a good place to start thinking. So that screw head's too complicated right now. I'm just going to kind of block it out. I know that it's there. I'll keep working as I go. So that's my first sort of pass, very loose. I've maybe spent a few minutes on that. Something I do like to do as well is sort of plan out a little bit of a backspace, a ground plane, which helps push my, my objects forward and helps me see what I'm looking at a little bit better. So my first pass was pretty short, pretty quick, and now I'm going to come back in and I'm going to keep rendering. Once again, what a lot of people will want to do is render the overall detail too early They're going to be coming in and adding too much detail at an early stage, and that can be detrimental in the long run. So if you can give yourself even just a little bit of a plan. This is a symmetrical object. We'll talk more about that, but I'm going to bring a straight line vertically down, and then I can plan around that as I'm looking at my symmetry. Sort of a goofy top there, but it's all right. Remember, guys, you're not going for perfection, especially in these early stages. I am starting to add a little bit more pressure. You're just slowly trying to get more and more accurate. So it goes on the inside of that. I like that on the back side too. It's a little bit oblong. You'll also notice I haven't really used my eraser yet. Use it a little bit now. But I try not to use my eraser too much. I think the eraser can slow you down. And I'd rather be able to sort of work more organically. You'll notice that my drawing has started out pretty loose and is starting to tighten up a little bit based on the line quality that I'm adding. All through, once again, observation. That curve is not dramatic enough. It's better. Move back up and mirroring. Another almost symmetrical object, which can be beneficial, but can also be sometimes more difficult. Because if it's not perfect, your eye will be able to see it very easily. Just pushing that detail. Once again, trying to move my hand, not stay in one place too long. If you labor too long in one area, it's going to slow you down quite a bit. So you want to keep moving. You should be kind of bouncing around the drawing and looking for details. Like here, you can see some of my planning marks that I'm not using any longer. I could come in and erase them, or I could leave them. There's this concept called visual hierarchy that your eye will understand the more dramatic, more profound line work within the work. And the planning marks will sort of recede to the back. And as you continue to push your line quality, that will help a lot. Okay, we're continuing to move along. Moving down to our fruit here, which obscures a little bit of the bottom portion of the bottle. Comes around. Another thing is a lot of people will get lots of lines on the borders of the objects and forget to engage the space on the inside. A little bit of work on the inside of textural elements and sort of just space will help, and you get a little bit of a better understanding of what you're looking at. Let's get this just a little bit out of the way. There we go. I would still consider this in the early stages. Maybe spent a little bit over 5 minutes drawing this right now. But as I continue to push this drawing, I'm just going to be coming in and adding more pressure and more refined detail in space on top of my already loose elements. Peach is a little bit thinner there. What I don't want to see too much of is coming in and trying to get too much detail too early, too perfectly, because that will be a mistake. You'll notice that I'm already starting to think about little bits of detail as far as value, cast shadows. I'm in a decently well lit room. I'm not going to spend too much time thinking about it, but just minimal cast shadows can be very beneficial in a drawing. You start to see how all these objects are related. sort of plays with the same idea as the ground plane and developing that space the same way. So I'm moving through, I'm adding value. Once again, I'm going to spend maybe another minute or two on this, trying to move through and add a little bit more detail. But all in all, I'm probably going to be drawing for maybe about 10 minutes. For you to be drawing for 45 minutes per drawing, you should be trying to move similarly to how I'm moving, quickly. I realize I have a little bit more experience than some of you. But that doesn't mean you can't move quickly and try your best to sort of move in a gestural form. Gestural is sort of finding the gesture of the object, the sort of shape first, and then building into it more accurately once you have those proportions sort of decided a little bit more. Corkscrew is a little bit of a weird shape. Finishes sort of up there. Sometimes little details on these things can be nice. Not going to spend too much time, so just get the illusion of the detail and then keep moving. But that's the goal as I continue to move through this drawing. I will continue to add detail, I'll continue to add line quality. You should be focusing mostly on proportions between objects, the space between these objects. I'm noticing that one object is lower than another. When I am measuring, there's a couple ways of doing that. Coming from the bottom, coming from the top, left and right. So make your measurements, make your observations, and spend 45 minutes per drawing based off an observation of your still life.